Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about if dismissive avoidants often leave relationships too early and come to regret it later. So, this is a really important topic for dismissive avoidants, quite honestly, and it's something that they go through, in my opinion, more than they consciously realize or even recognize after the fact. And we all know, and we've talked about on this channel many times before, how dismissive avoidants are sort of like in their feelings minus their fears. So they essentially are in a place where they, have feelings for somebody, they develop those feelings. And early on, in the dating stage of relationships or even into the honeymoon stage of relationships, when there's not like a lot of commitment, conflict, long-term planning, things to work through, things like this, dismissive avoidants really have like their fears online or their feelings online, and their fears really aren't too online. But as there's more potential conflict, as there are more things to plan for, there are more things related to commitment and vulnerability that are required to continuously progress the relationship through its natural life cycle, this causes dismissive avoidants to feel more afraid, more shut down. Their fears come online, and sometimes it even sort of numbs out their feelings. And it's interesting to note that everybody's subconscious mind is more focused on avoiding pain than it is on seeking pleasure or relief. And so that can take even more precedence from that perspective if you take that into account. And so what essentially takes place for DAs is that they get into a position where this fear-feeling war comes online. And this is really the most important feature of sort of like understanding how DAs make their decisions. And it's that most dismissive avoidants do not have faith or trust in themselves to be able to resolve conflict. And it's because they haven't seen much emotional modeling for how to resolve conflict in a healthy way. They haven't seen much communication about emotions, noticing of emotions, let alone actually unpacking the emotions and communicating, back and forth between two parties about what each party needs to feel resolved and how to get there and how to work through those things together. And so dismissive avoidants feel like this feeling minus fear cycle. But then when, fear comes online even more, and there's commitments or there's arguments or things taking place that are natural in relationships, dismissive avoidants feel also very disempowered to work through those things, which often leads them to feel like the only option on the sort of like playing field for them is to cut the relationship loose, to move away, to sort of seek protection from these uncomfortable feelings and uncomfortable conversations. And so it often leads to dismissive avoidants leaving relationships way too abruptly when they could have instead communicated their needs, been more vulnerable, been more transparent as to what they were feeling, what they were afraid of. And most of the time, what the DA doesn't realize is that by communicating vulnerably, they would have received way more support than they think. And the sort of tricky part of this is that dismissive avoidants can go from relationship to relationship, not noticing this, not realizing it, just under this umbrella or assumption based on like what emotional knowledge they have access to that, well, it wasn't working. We started arguing and I didn't know what to do about that. So it wasn't going well. So I left. But often there isn't the awareness to realize, hey, but if we had learned to work things through, if I had been more vulnerable, if I had let my guard down, if I had said what I was feeling, if I had opened up a little bit, hey, maybe things would have been different. And sometimes that's not even a conscious realization the DA has. And again, not because they're not smart or clever enough to have it, but because they just usually haven't had access to that information. It's like an unknown unknown. And so what I would find a lot of times is in working with a lot of dismissive avoidants in my private practice, I would see dismissive avoidants over time come to realize through conversation and communication, like, wow, if I applied this to a couple of my past relationships, I can see how things would have gone way differently. But that took place with somebody who was investing and doing the work and showing up. And that's when you would see these things shift. So it's a really important thing to pay attention to. And for a dismissive avoidant who may not know what's going on for them, we have reprogramming courses for all the different attachment styles. And they really hone in on like what your key points, pain points are as each attachment style and help you recondition those limiting beliefs, the relationship to your needs, the relationship to your fears about communicating or opening up or getting in touch with your feelings as a dismissive avoidant. And you can check that course out for free for 7 days using the link in the description box below if you want to sort of like understand your unknown unknowns and make them known unknowns and then do the work to make them known knowns. So hopefully that kind of makes sense to you. But, these are all going to be limitations until we become securely attached. Each attachment style has blind spots, pain points, but we can't really do anything about it until we get those tools laid out before us to really understand what's going on for us at the individual level, subconsciously. Consciously, we can understand. Subconsciously, we can sort of realize, okay, things weren't working, or, the relationship started feeling like it was taking a bad turn, so I left. But what we may not know is that, hey, if we had just moved this way and communicated differently and known our needs and validated the other person's feelings and learned about their needs, but also set boundaries in a healthy way, I would have grown, that person would have grown, we each would have grown in the relationship together, and things could have been way more successful. And it is very possible as a dismissive avoidant to have a really healthy, harmonious, happy relationship where you get many of your needs met, but also to feel like you have your independence and your freedom and your autonomy, and you can set boundaries and you can take time alone. Like, all of those things are possible. So I hope this makes sense, and definitely important to pay attention to. And for anybody who's watching this as the partner or loved one or ex of a DA who was curious, hopefully this sort of filled in some blanks for you as well. And that is it for today in this video. Thank you so much for watching and for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.